Ichiro Yamada. If Ichiro is your favorite, you probably admire loyalty and responsibility above everything. You're drawn to characters who shoulder the weight of others' struggles without complaining, even if it costs them. Ichiro represents the dependable older brother figure, someone who puts others first and thrives when protecting those he loves. Liking him suggests that you value people who are consistent, compassionate, and strong enough to carry others' burdens. Psychologically, fans of Ichiro may admire caretakers, people who stabilize chaos and create safety, even if they sometimes neglect their own needs. You might relate to taking on more than your fair share because you can't stand seeing someone else suffer. This mix of cool-headed leadership and heartfelt devotion means you likely prize sincerity and strength not just in others but in yourself as well. Jiro Yamada. If Jiro is your favorite, you likely connect with youthful energy mixed with earnest ambition. You're drawn to people who wear their hearts on their sleeves and aren't afraid to be passionate, even if they stumble along the way. Jiro reflects the value of striving. He's a character who is still figuring things out but does so with determination and honesty. If you favor him, you might admire people who embrace growth, who are not afraid of mistakes, and who bounce back stronger each time. Psychologists often note that we're drawn to characters who show traits we would aspire to. Liking Jiro means you admire courage and perseverance. Maybe you see yourself in the process of becoming more confident. His love for hip-hop and determination to prove himself shows that you value authenticity, self-expression, and the thrill of working toward your dreams. Saburo Yamada. Choosing Saburo as your favorite suggests you appreciate sharp minds and playful personalities. He's witty, intelligent, and knows how to stand out even when surrounded by strong personalities. If you like Saburo, you probably admire people who can combine intellect with humor, those who know how to lighten the mood while still being impressive. Fans of characters like Saburo tend to value quick thinking and problem-solving skills and may identify with feeling like the younger sibling in a group constantly striving to prove themselves. You might also enjoy his boldness, the way he challenges others without fear, and see that as a trait you wish you had or already possessed. Saburo symbolizes the balance of brains, humor, and confidence, suggesting that you admire people who don't just play the game but also know how to twist it in their favor. Samatoki Aohitsuki. If Samatoki is your favorite, you're drawn to intensity, raw emotion, and unshakable loyalty. He embodies strength mixed with a deep, protective streak, especially when it comes to family. Fans of Samatoki often admire people who are unapologetically passionate, even when it leads to conflict. Psychologically, this may show a preference for authenticity over politeness. You'd rather want someone to be brutally honest than fake. Liking Samatoki suggests that you value people who are flawed but very sincere, and you probably respect strength not just in the physical sense, but as resilience. His violent tendencies might not be what you look for in real life, but his willingness to fight for what matters to him reflects your admiration for people who stand their ground no matter the cost. You see beauty in intensity, and perhaps you want relationships and friendships that are fiery and loyal. Juto Irume. If Juto is your favorite, you likely appreciate balance, especially between order and chaos. He's pragmatic, logical, and skilled at navigating gray areas, which appeals to people who admire resourcefulness. Fans of Juto often value characters who know how to get things done, even if it means bending the rules, because they recognize the world isn't always black and white. Personality-wise, you may resonate with people who can maintain control under pressure, who stay calm in crises, and who use their intelligence strategically. You're likely someone who admires efficiency and composure, but also sees the importance of adaptability. Juto represents the strength of subtlety, of knowing when to act and when to wait. If he's your favorite, you probably value people who aren't loud about their power, but always seem to come out on top because they understand that life is as much about strategy as force. Ryo Mason Busujima. Choosing Ryo as your favorite suggests you value steadiness, physical strength, and simplicity. He represents characters who say less but mean more, whose loyalty and consistency speak louder than words. If you like Ryo, you probably admire people who don't need to complicate things, who can stand tall, stay calm, and be reliable in any situation. Fans of characters like Ryo tend to find comfort in dependability. You might look for stability in a chaotic world, and people like Ryo reassure you that some things can be trusted. You may also resonate with his struggles to communicate or fit in, seeing the beauty in those who may not always express themselves easily but prove their care through actions. Ryo's blend of toughness and gentleness may show that you admire those who are strong without arrogance and compassionate without needing to announce it. Ramuda Amemura. If Ramuda is your favorite, you likely appreciate complexity hidden beneath playfulness. He's bright, flashy and fun, but beneath that lies cunning and sharp intelligence. Creativity and adaptability may be important values to you if you like Ramuda. You may admire those who can switch between masks depending on the situation. You also might be fascinated by people who don't give everything away immediately, who reveal different sides of themselves depending on trust. If you like Ramuda, it suggests you value both fun and depth. You admire people who can make you laugh but also make you think. His duality reflects the idea that humans are layered and you probably find beauty in contradictions. Someone who can be both silly and serious, open and guarded, lighthearted and intense. You see charm in those who refuse to be one-dimensional because life is never that simple. Gentaro Yumino. If Gentaro is your favorite, you're drawn to mystery and emotional depth. He's enigmatic with an aura that keeps others guessing, which appeals to people who enjoy unraveling layers. Fans of Gentaro may admire characters who are hard to pin down, who hold secrets but reveal themselves through small gestures and storytelling. Psychologically, this suggests that you value imagination and reflection, and you're drawn to people who can communicate emotions in subtle ways. If you like Gentaro, you probably admire artistry and sensitivity, and you may be someone who finds meaning in words, metaphors, and creativity. He represents the kind of person who might be misunderstood at first, but has a depth that rewards patience. Liking Gentaro means you respect those who carry complexity within them and who reveal their truth in fragments, like a puzzle you piece together over time. Dice Arisugawa. Choosing Dice as your favorite suggests you appreciate chaos, humor, and risk-taking. He's carefree and often reckless, but he's also endlessly fun and resourceful. Fans of Dice tend to admire people who live in the moment, who take chances, and who don't overthink everything. Personality-wise, this means you're drawn to spontaneity and perhaps admire freedom from the constraints of planning or responsibility. If you like Dice, you probably enjoy people who can turn bad situations around with cleverness or luck, and you admire resilience disguised as foolishness. You might also relate to his ability to laugh things off and keep moving, even when life doesn't go his way. Dice represents the thrill of unpredictability, of never knowing what's next, and if he's your favorite, you likely value excitement and humor, even when things are tough. Jakurai Jinguji. If Jakurai is your favorite, you are drawn to wisdom, calmness, and the aura of someone who sees beyond the surface. Jakurai is thoughtful and serious, with a deep sense of responsibility, which appeals to those who admire intelligence and composure. Fans of Jakurai often respect characters who embody a mentor figure, someone who carries both knowledge and empathy. Psychologically, you may value guidance and stability, and you might be drawn to people who provide clarity in confusing situations. Jakurai represents a balance between intellect and compassion, teaching that true strength lies in understanding others. If he's your favorite, it could mean that you admire those who carry their burdens with dignity and who act with care even when they're hurting themselves. You see power in restraint, and you respect those who can remain steady when everything else feels like it's falling apart. Hifumi Izanami. Liking Hifumi means you admire charm, adaptability, and emotional warmth. He's the kind of character who brightens rooms and draws people in effortlessly, which appeals to those who value connection. Fans of Hifumi may admire people who put others at ease, who use their social skills to lift up those around them. Personality-wise, this suggests that you value empathy and charisma, and perhaps you yourself have a knack for making others feel comfortable. You might also appreciate Hifumi's vulnerability. He struggles with personal challenges beneath his friendly exterior because it shows strength in imperfection. If he's your favorite, you probably admire authenticity mixed with charm, people who are genuine even while they sparkle. You may see yourself in his ability to care for others while also learning to care for himself. Doppo Kanonsaka. If Doppo is your favorite, you likely connect with characters who are anxious, overworked, but deeply earnest. He represents the struggles of modern life, exhaustion, self-doubt, and the pressure to keep going despite everything. Fans of Doppo may admire his resilience, his willingness to keep showing up even when it's hard, because they recognize that survival itself is strength. Vulnerability may mean a lot to you if you like Doppo. You see strength in people who admit their flaws while still moving forward anyway. You might relate to his honesty, his tired humor, and the quiet ways he cares for others despite his own struggles. If he's your favorite, you probably value people who are real about their pain, and you see beauty in perseverance, even when it's messy. You respect those who don't give up, even if the world never makes it easy for them. Sasara no Rude. If Sasara is your favorite, you probably admire humor, charm, and the ability to lighten the mood. He's energetic, social, and thrives on making others laugh, which appeals to people who value joy and connection. Fans of Sasara may admire people who bring positivity to any situation, even when they themselves are struggling. You generally might be drawn to those who use humor as a bridge, who mask their own pain to make others smile. If you like Sasara, you probably admire adaptability and charisma, and you may relate to the idea of hiding vulnerability beneath laughter. He represents resilience through joy, showing that even in hardship, some choose to spread light. Liking Sasara means you appreciate people who make life fun and who remind everyone that even heavy moments can be carried more easily with laughter. Rosho Tsutsujimori. If Rosho is your favorite, you probably value humility, kindness, and quiet dedication. He's soft-spoken and avoids conflict, but he cares deeply for those around him, which appeals to people who admire gentleness. Fans of Rosho often value sincerity over showmanship, appreciating people who don't need attention to prove their worth. Psychologically, this suggests you might find comfort in characters who create peace, who choose understanding over aggression. If you like Rosho, you probably admire patience and modesty, and you may see beauty in simplicity. He represents the idea that strength isn't always loud. Sometimes it's in showing up consistently, in caring quietly, and in putting others first without expecting recognition. Liking Rosho means you respect those who live with compassion and humility, even in a world that often rewards the opposite. Rei Amayado. If Rei is your favorite, you probably appreciate complexity and contradiction in a character. You're drawn to people who hide sharp intellect and calculation behind humor or charm, and you find value in those who balance lightheartedness with darker undertones. Liking Rei suggests that you admire resilience, slyness, and the ability to adapt in high-stakes situations. Rei tends to appeal to those who respect strategists, people who can see the big picture and pull strings behind the scenes even if their motives aren't always clear. You might relate to his protectiveness toward loved ones even when it comes through flawed or questionable choices. His mix of sometimes devious charisma, paranoia, and deep care means you likely value loyalty, cleverness, and smart survival skills, not just in others, but in yourself. Kuko Harai. If Kuko is your favorite, you're drawn to wild energy, boldness, and the fire of rebellion. He represents freedom from constraints and the refusal to play by the rules, which appeals to people who like raw passion. Fans of Kuko often enjoy characters who live unapologetically, who embody both chaos and honesty. You may crave self-expression and value those who embrace their individuality without fear. If you like Kuko, you probably respect authenticity, even when it's messy or confrontational. You might relate to his explosive energy or simply admire the way he channels it into loyalty and conviction. Kuko symbolizes the joy of being fully yourself, even when the world doesn't approve. And if he's your favorite, it means you value freedom, passion, and the kind of strength that refuses to be silenced. Jushi Aimono. If Jushi is your favorite, you probably connect with vulnerability and the courage it takes to grow. He's sensitive, emotional, and learning to stand tall despite insecurity, which appeals to people who admire honesty and resilience. Fans of Jushi often value characters who show that fragility isn't weakness, but a part of becoming stronger. You may resonate with self-expression, especially through creativity, and admire those who confront their fears instead of hiding from them. If you like Jushi, you probably respect emotional honesty, even when it's uncomfortable, and you might relate to his journey of learning to believe in himself. He represents the strength in imperfection, the truth that growth often starts with doubt, and liking him suggests you see beauty in people who are still finding their voices. Hitoya Amaguni. If Hitoya is your favorite, you probably admire confidence, intellect, and sharp judgment. He's articulate and persuasive, with a strong sense of justice, which speaks to people who value intelligence and conviction. Fans of Hitoya often respect characters who can see through lies and call things as they are. Psychologically, you might be drawn to people who combine logic with moral clarity, who know when to stand firm and when to negotiate. If you like Hitoya, you probably admire independence and decisiveness, and you might relate to the struggle of standing apart from the crowd in order to uphold what feels right. He represents the voice of reason, the one who cuts through noise with clarity, and liking him suggests you value people who use their sharp minds not just for themselves, but for fairness and truth.